Wendy Moon said, do you expect to see an influx of developers to come along with the influx of miners, and which is more important for us right now? Well, I'm going to say that miners probably are foundational, right? If you don't have miners, you don't have a proof of work network, right? There's no point for developers to exist if miners don't exist, because the security they deliver ultimately is what protects, secures, and creates transactions on chain. So I'm going to go team miner. Now, that being said, developers are huge, and we need to continually work as a community to onboard them, lower the barrier of entry, provide tools, SDKs, tutorials, support, and open code, which is huge in terms of everything I just mentioned, in terms of teaching people to use them. So I think we'll see both. Now, the truth is, if you look at a lot of other proof of work projects around the merge, ETH Classic doesn't really have that big of a development community. Same with Raven. Flux does okay. They have a decent development around them. There's a lot of proof of work coins that really don't have development, and I do think that even though short-term miners are more important because you don't have a proof of work blockchain without miners, long-term developers do create kind of like the use case, development path, and future of a chain. So there's some synergy there that just needs to be respected. If you look at Ergo, we do have a pretty substantial development community. We do have the right type of developers to where we have a lot of open code. And the reality is, as the network grows, we need to probably stick to first principles, because you will have a lot of the same shenanigans, nonsense, and just general bullshit that we see across the crypto ecosystem, where somebody spins up a fancy website, says, I'm going to make a project, and there's no code, but there's some marketing, and then some people get suckered. So let's try to stick to first principles, push for best development practices, some type of proof of development, and ultimately protect users. I think that's important, especially as Ergo becomes more known. We've benefited from kind of being a small, isolated ecosystem to where we've had good developers with good intent. And if you get into larger ecosystems, that's not always the case. So, Ice Front, be aware of, your risks. Understand that sometimes when there's money involved, people are predatory. So hopefully we don't see too much of that. But it's something that, I kind of always have to warn the community about, because, well, it does happen in this space, unfortunately. But long term, I think with developers and miners, we have a pretty nice long-term path where hopefully as things develop, the user experience for both gets easier, the tooling for both gets easier, and ultimately like the value aspect of our network grows for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't really know what I can add to what Joe said, because that's pretty much it. Miners secure the network, so we definitely need those. That's basically, they are kind of the guardians, I would say, of the network itself. But of course, you can't just build a network just in mining. You actually need somebody to use it. So the developers are just as important, but it just I don't know if you can actually compare them, right? So it's two different directions. The developers grow the ecosystem out, and the miners grow the security of the network out. So I think two move in parallel. And I believe that both are just equally as important to the development of the ecosystem.